767-2122, and you can always find more information.
We're going to have a good show today? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we will.
Clark's still prepping copy over there.
Hey, we got, oh, is that, minutes, we're minutes away from going live. And what bills are in play? We got...
It is unrecognizable. Tensions are flaring in Venezuela as the country is off against protesters. Today, the Venezuelan military reportedly fired tear gas on protesters who were attempting to cross the border.
Can you turn that up just a little bit?
For work.
Monitor?
Yeah.
Or the headphones?
For you.
Flowed through the Brazilian-Venezuelan border in a move of opposition
Can you
to
hear it
indulge
okay?
President
Oh, yeah.
Nicolas Maduro. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Empire actor Jussie Smollett is apparently being removed from the show. Angela Anderson has details.
Producers of Empire say Smollett's character will be written out of the final episodes of the current season. In a statement, the producers say while Jussie has been an important part of the show, they are aware of the effects the legal process can have on the cast and crew members. Angela Anderson, NBC News Radio.
Arizona is dealing with some rare winter weather, and the Tucson Police Department is having some fun with it. It posted a video on its Twitter feed showing 2 police officers surrounded by snow.
Tucson's never seen anything like this before. We've gotten lots of calls about a white powdery substance all over.
They said they sent samples of the strange white powdery substance to the crime lab. Tucson got a good dusting of snow yesterday morning, with an inch or 2 at higher elevations. A true lover of space exploration who got an indelible reminder of man's mission to Mars made a big, etched-in-ink. Elisa Z has the details.
As a tribute to NASA's Opportunity rover, which has been officially declared dead, an unidentified man got a tattoo of a NASA rover along with the words, "My battery is low and it's getting dark." According to many social media posts, there are 2 things wrong with this. First, The quote was falsely attributed to NASA. Second, the picture on this man's shoulder is actually one of NASA's Curiosity rover, not the Opportunity. Elisa Z, NBC News Radio.
The team behind Space Jam 2 has set a release date for summer of 2021. The original film starred Michael Jordan along with Bugs Bunny and was released in 1996.
I think we'll do open line phones pretty much the whole time, anytime.
James, who will be making his debut as a lead actor. The original film grossed a little over $200 million in the United States. Space Jam 2 will hit theaters in 2 years.
Let's go 10 minutes for the...
Phil Hewlett, NBC News Radio.
Traffic from the Two Brothers Mattress Traffic Operations Center.
There is not much to get in your way across the valley right now. We still don't have a single crash or stall to report. That means I-15 is wide open from Ogden to Provo. I-80 is all clear. The same for I-215. The busiest road right now is State Street in and out of Fashion Place. And we're starting to see more volume on Big Cottonwood Canyon Road near Donut Falls Trailhead.
This report is sponsored by RockAuto.com. At RockAuto.com, choose the part, brands, prices, features you want 24/7. Even find parts you may have been told are dealer only or no longer available. All delivered to your home or office. RockAuto.com.
All the parts your car will ever need. Rock Auto.
I have only 5 words for you. From my cold, dead hands.
It's time for Gun Radio Utah. No apologies. A show dedicated to preserving and protecting your constitutional right to bear arms for your security and sport. Here's your host, well-known gun rights advocate and chairman of the Utah Shooting Sports Council, Clark Kaposian.
Welcome to Gun Radio Utah. There's no apologies here. Doran, no apologies. You got the memo?
Sorry.
There was huge memos. There was memo. Look, in my, right here.
Okay.
Hey, we've got a show for you today. Now, absent, out of the studio today, Pedersen, Bill Pedersen, he's gone. You know what he's doing? He's snowmobiling and I think shooting things.
Is that
perhaps
an Olympic
while
sport?
snowmobiling.
Is that an Olympic sport,
It
shooting
should be.
from a snowmobile?
It should be. Anyway, we're hoping Bill will call in from, where is he Strawberry, I think? I think I saw it. So anyway, you can listen to us. You can watch us live on the Gun Radio Utah Facebook page. Just go to Facebook and go type in Gun Radio Utah. Is that right, Doran?
That's right.
All right. Or you could go on YouTube.
Yep. Go to YouTube, search for Gun Radio Utah, and today's stream should be listed right there in your search results.
Just Gun Radio Utah.
That's right.
simple. Okay, that's cool. Okay, fantastic. Or you can just keep listening to us on KNRS.
That's right.
All right. So we are going to go to, we're going to go to D.C. at one point. We're going to talk about why Democrats want to protect illegal purchases of firearms. They want to do that. We're going to go to Kentucky. We're going to go to New Mexico. And we're going to stay right here in Utah for a little bit, too. So in this segment, let's talk about some of the bills that we've got going up at the legislature today, this week. For the next, we're halfway through the session. We're halfway through
Only
the session.
halfway?
Well, I think maybe a little bit more than halfway.
Okay.
I think, what is it, March 14?
Yeah,
March 14.
Mid-March.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that. Oh, I should probably point out, Casey Jane Aposhian is not in the studio. I gave her the day off today. She was coughing, so I said, stay away from me.
Yeah.
So I said, I got to do a shout out. I got to do a shout out to my big brother, Dave, who's at the Guantanamo Bay California version of Guantanamo Bay VA hospital.
Okay. At
the VA hospital in Palo Alto, California right now. And a big shout out to him. And so, yeah, apparently when they're doing some work on him, he let the expletives fly.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the VA. So he says that most of his doctors used to work at Guantanamo Bay in interrogation unit, apparently. That's what he was telling me. So a shout out to Dave and shout out to Bill and Casey, too. Maybe they'll call.
I read something today about the how the Pentagon's going to fund Trump's border wall with a swear jar.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, because,
that's a good thing.
Those military types.
Yeah. All right, somebody is just people are texting me. I got to make sure my phone is off, too, because then they'll be texting me and then it'll be down. All right. Let's talk about some of these bills that we've been working on up at the Capitol. All right, still in play is HB 209. That's your extreme risk protective order, otherwise known as gun confiscation bill.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So it's just another way to confiscate the guns. But remember, folks, you don't have to commit a crime. You don't have to be even suspected of committing a crime. You don't even have to appear in court to have your say before you get a knock on the door. I'm hoping there's at least a knock on the door at 3 or 4 a.m. and your guns will be taken away. But don't worry, because 2 weeks later, you can go to the judge, and after the bell has already kind of been rung, and you can go to the judge and prove a negative. Prove that you're not a danger to yourself or others.
That's Steve Handy's bill, right?
That is Representative Steve Handy's bill. We do not support that legislation. Now, I mean, there are, Representative Corey Malloy, fantastic representative. I think it's District 16 in House District 16, but he's up in that area. He wrote, and it's moving quite well, House Joint Resolution 7, which basically outlines 22 code sections and subsections of existing law that say, hey, you know what? Yeah, there are some folks that probably shouldn't have some firearms, and we can do it even in an exigent fashion with due process. And he pointed out, and these are just some of these statutes that people just didn't realize were out there, or they were not being utilized effectively.
So basically, enforce existing law.
Yes, enforce existing law. We make no apologies for folks that break the law. Enforce the law. And we see this time and time again with safe storage bills and, personal liability bills. In fact, we've got those two, HB 190 and HB 87, which that was essentially my testimony to the committee was, we've got some existing laws out there that if we would just, one, enforce, and two, prosecute. We do have law enforcement that is doing a pretty good job in enforcing them, but then when they get to the county attorney, things tend to fall apart. So let's start enforcing those. I mean, criminal negligence we've got at the very least. So all right.
So where is 209?
209. Oh, that's a good question. Where is 209? 209 is still in House Rules Committee. Okay. So when a bill is read for the first time in whatever house it starts in, it gets sent to Rules. And then from Rules, it is assigned to the appropriate committee dealing with whatever it deals with. It is still in Rules.
Okay.
So
now, what about the other one, the resolution that...
No, that one's moving. In fact, HJR 7, let me tell you exactly where that one is right now. House Joint Resolution 7, 007. That's kind of what it's 00.
Oh, there you go.
Kind of cool. It is, went to a Senate. It has been assigned. It passed through the House. It is done in the House and everything there. Now it goes to the Senate, and it went to the Senate. It went to Senate Rules, and it went to the Standing Committee.
Okay.
So I imagine it went to, and I've got to look again, imagine it went to Senate, either Judiciary or Law Enforcement.
Does everybody stand in the Standing Committee?
Yes, it is. Yes, the Standing Committee is just basically the committee during the legislative session. They have interim committees, and most of those committees are joint with House and Senate. Thank you, Lundy. And so when I say Standing Committee, it went to a committee.
Yeah, I thought maybe you weren't allowed to sit.
You are not allowed to sit. They are not. They are too busy for you to be sitting in there. Let me tell you what. All right, so we've got that. There's another one out there. HB 331 just got sent to House Law Enforcement Committee. It is not on the schedule as of yet. Representative Patrice Arent, who I respect, but I disagree with her on this bill. Prohibition of firearm modification devices. It's a rather ambiguous bill. Well, I don't want to say ambiguous, but kind of leaves the door wide open for a modification on your firearm if it somehow enhances the rate of fire. And it doesn't say how much it enhances the rate of fire or anything like that.
This sounds like something that you'd hear about in the National Congress.
Yeah.
But this is happening here in Utah?
Here in Utah. Mm-hmm.
So what
so basically, I'm sure it would ban bump stocks. It would very likely prohibit, even to the extent of lighter trigger pulls.
Wow.
Or
so
the
it's
binary
not specific
triggers
on
or
what it
something
bans.
like that. No. It doesn't actually list it specifically. So it has not come up in committee yet. But now, remember, folks, you can find out what's going on if you go to le.utah.gov, le.utah.gov, or just utah.gov. Follow the links to get to the official website for the legislature. And you can type in those bill numbers and go to bill tracking and find out exactly where they are at this time. All right, back and forth. We're going to talk about, what do we got, Lundy? You said, oh, okay, I can talk about this pretty quick. In Texas City, Texas. Now that, Texas City, Texas, that's a Texas, there are no apologies for being in Texas, in Texas City.
You know you're in Texas when you're in Texas City.
Yeah. In fact, the Texas City Independent School District hired a former Secret Service agent. Okay? His name's Rodney Cavness. He's equipping all of the school district guards with AR-15s.
Wow.
He's utilizing facial recognition technology to control who comes into the buildings and tracking students with chip technology. Now, when I mean chip technology, they're not implanting chips in the kids.
Oh, okay.
At least not yet. But they have the little cards like we have, and when you pass by certain areas, it will record seamlessly where they go. And they do that for any visit. They have it on visitor badges. They have it on student badges, student ID badges. They have it on the employees. So anybody that's in that school has to have one. And you can just, you're supposed to drop by the office if you don't have one, if you're a visitor. Mm-hmm. And then you get a visitor ID badge, and then they can tell where that person is, where they've been. So anyway, I think it's a great idea. But guess what? I proposed that to the Utah School Safety Commission.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because somebody had come to me and told me that this technology is out there and it's been being used it is being used. There it is. It is being used in corporations right now to track what they're going on. And, this would answer a lot of questions, including let's harden those schools, the doors and that kind of stuff. The architects have said that and said that the design of the schools hasn't changed much in 30 years.
Yeah, that's
except
true.
for some schools, what they're doing that. Thank you very much, Lundy. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about what happened in Kentucky and New Mexico. Stay tuned.
Wow. What happened? You used to go hours without visiting the bathroom. Now it seems like you're constantly getting up to pee, and you're even getting up at night to go. This is not okay. Listen, the makers of Super Beta Prostate, the #1 prostate formula, are introducing a new wonder pill.
I have no response to that. All right.
So do you have anything you want me to read? Give yourself a break, and then when are you going to open the lines?
Well, I highlighted some of this stuff. It's fun. That's federal legislation. The key thing is Democrats, well, you read that, especially the highlighted areas, you can see what I mean if you want to do that one.
This is the Washington? No.
Washington, D.C.
Oh, Washington,
That's
D.C.
federal. It's two, HJR 8 and S something.
Yeah, I know all about HR 8 because I wrote that letter.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Let's talk about that then. Hey, Lundy, I'm going to open up the phone lines, or would you open up the phone lines, please? I'll get the info. So I'm on YouTube, but I'm on Gun Radio Utah page, but I don't see any messages or anything coming through. That's okay, don't worry.
Rocky Mountain Gun Shows.
Don't miss the Rocky Mountain Gun Show, March 2nd and 3rd.
Another gun show?
I'll let you walk out of here. Who's we, sucker? Smith and Wesson and me?
Gun Radio Utah is back. Talk Radio 105.9 KNRS. Here's your host, Clark Kaposian.
Hey, welcome to Gun Radio Utah. In our second segment, it's going to be lively. I didn't tell Lundy how long to go for either.
Oh, so we can just
keep
go and
going.
go.
We just keep going. So, because there's no apologies. Hey, in fact, sitting across from me is Doran Barton. Doran, we're waiting on a op-ed from you. Is that right? Not an op-ed, a letter to the editor, an LTE.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the Deseret News. They haven't responded.
Deseret News, we'll put a call out to them. We'll shame them into responding to you.
Please respond.
So, Lundy, let's open up the phone lines. Let's see if anybody has a question on what's going on up at the legislature about a specific bill, or if they want, you know what? If you've got a question on a gun, well, let's see if I can answer it. We'll see. I don't want Polano calling though, and then he'll ask some questions to chamber pressure for an AK-47 round or something like that. Anyway, 888-570-8010, 888-570-8010. That's 8010.
That's right.
You can call in. Tell Lundy what you want to talk about. Tell him your real name. We have a way of checking it. No, we don't. We really don't. There's no way. And tell, in fact, tell him where you're calling from. I guess that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah. Tell him what you want to talk about, though. 888-570-8010. So, Doran, you handle our video.
Yep.
Our YouTube, our Facebook, our streaming stuff. You're not doing it on Twitter, though.
No, I'm not a tweeter.
Maybe we should do that. All right. So, and we've got that. So if you want to watch us, you can watch us go to YouTube.
Yeah,
so
go
pull
to
up your YouTube browser on the interwebs and type in Gun Radio Utah.
Yeah, just type in Gun Radio Utah, and today's show is streaming right now, and it should be in your search results. And, of course, if you're one of those Facebookers, you can go to the Gun Radio Utah Facebook page, and there's a post from just a few minutes ago with the YouTube video right there.
All right, so I gotta bring up I see a flashing red, something like this going on. Anyway, that's how Lundy communicates with me. There's a flashing red thing on the screen.
You have to count how many times it flashes. Does that mean something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's very fast though. All right, so Representative Brian King, actually, he is the House Minority Leader in the Utah legislature. Representative Brian King has a bill that's not so terrible. Okay. He has some other terrible bills, too. Some terrible bills. But he has a bill that we could probably get behind. Basically, it says this. And it, Lundy, I see that. Thank you. All right. So, Jared, hang on just a second. You got a question about Parley's range. We'll see if we can answer that.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, Representative King has a bill. What's his bill number? 325. I've got it written down. Is that it? Yeah, 325. It says this. If a person goes in and has a domestic violence prohibitor, he is prohibited from purchasing or possessing a firearm due to a domestic violence conviction on his record. And that's a lifetime thing. Until it comes off there, that's lifetime until you can get it off. And that's even a misdemeanor. So what is that noise? I just heard a weird noise. Is that me? That's mine. Anyways, this guy's calling. Why is this guy calling here while I'm on? Can you believe that? Of course, I should have turned the phone off. And So anyway, so you go into the gun store, you got a DV on you, and, well, Representative King wants those reported at the end of the year, one time before the legislature starts, how many people tried to purchase a firearm and what happened to them.
Okay.
That had a DV conviction. Well,
Right.
I'm going to do you one better, Representative King. I'm going to suggest that anyone that is prohibited for whatever reason, let's say they're in the country illegally.
Okay.
Let's say they're using false ID. Let's say whatever it is, they're not supposed to be purchasing, let alone possessing a firearm or attempting to. Why are we just sticking with just DVs? Okay, domestic violence ones. So, Representative King, we might. I have to ask the board about this, but we might be able to get behind your bill if
well,
you
I'm
included
surprised
that in there.
You know, that this stuff isn't reported already.
Well, they want a special report. There's no actual method of. There's no. There is a vehicle for which to.
So I guess
collect it.
if you wanted the information, you could ask for it.
Right. Well, I mean, you can go to the NICS denials, and that's a denial. But we want to find out. I'd like them separated because why were they denied?
Right.
Did they have a warrant out? And then plus, what I'd like to also see, because we have the ability to do this, is how many of those denials were later allowed to go through because it was either a mistaken report,
right,
or a traffic ticket that went to failure to appear, went to a warrant that was finally taken care of, something like that. Because some of those numbers, in fact, what I'd heard that well over 90% of the initial denials that get counted are later
they're appealed
resolved, so to speak. So, but I know the folks that are detractors like to point out those initial denials, are so huge. Anyway, so Dorn, you had something related to that, though. In fact, it was kind of related to something you were working on.
Right. Yes. We've talked about this before on the show about H.R. 8, which is in the U.S. House of Representatives. This is the bipartisan background check bill.
You mean they call it bipartisan background check?
That's what they call it. That's the working title, Bipartisan Background
What does
Checks
it do?
Act of 2019. So this pretty much prohibits all the things that that you and I have taken for granted, I guess. That
the ability to transfer a firearm back and forth.
You can transfer a firearm
I can
to,
loan you a gun.
family member and all that kind of stuff, or you can have a private sale between individuals. And now, if this becomes law, you can't have a private sale without first having a background check conducted.
You mean you go down to the gun store and your potential buyer or the person that you want to loan the gun to has to go down to the gun store.
Right.
They're not going to do that for free.
No,
I mean, it's going to take time. It's going to take.
You'd have to pay for the
a
background
transfer
check and basically a transfer fee.
I've seen them as cheap as $20. I've seen them up to $45 and $50. So, and that's going to add. Now, what we're talking about is, now we've already got federal prohibitions on that. You got to be a resident of the state. You've got to be at least 18 for a long gun.
Right.
Well, you got to be 18 for a long gun or a handgun in Utah. You got to be a resident of the state. You cannot know that the person is somehow prohibited from, thank you, Lundy, prohibited from possessing a firearm, or that they're going to do anything untoward with it or anything like that. So there's already federal laws that you have to abide by, even on a private transfer.
Yeah, even though it's not very well enforced. You can't really enforce that because it's a private sale. But the update on the bill here is that the Democrats this past committee, and so I guess it's going to the full floor of the House.
But there was an amendment offered, was there not?
Let's see.
The Republicans offered an amendment on
the Republicans wanted they wanted a proposed amendment by Florida Representative Greg Steube to require that law enforcement be notified when an individual attempting to purchase a firearm fails a federal background check. And the Democrats said, no, we're going to pass it as is.
You mean someone that was illegally here in the United States, not legally here, and wasn't that what Greg had wanted? If I recall, that was the amendment that they said, hey, if somebody who's not here legally in the United States, kind of like, and that's why I brought this up with Representative King's bill, is that if you're not here legally in the United States, then you shouldn't be attempting to purchase
an
firearms.
illegal immigrant would fail that background check. But this says anybody that would fail a background check is what Stubbe wanted was if anybody fails a background check, that law enforcement would be notified. And
okay. So now that's interesting because actually there was another bill that was coming up. In fact, I'm trying to remember which one it was, but there was another bill in the Utah legislature that said it would actually require BCI to notify law enforcement. So let's say the gun dealer runs a background, or calls BCI. All right, Jared, hang on. We're going to get right to you. Let's say the FFL calls BCI to do the regular background check.
Right.
All right. And it comes back, no, prohibited. BCI, without telling the dealer, would contact law enforcement, and law enforcement then could show up with lights and siren or however they do it. Now, my problem with that is, having worked at a gun store, let's say you've got a prohibited person. Maybe they're a desperate person too.
Right.
And the dealer doesn't know anything about what's going on. All of a sudden, they see law enforcement coming in. Is this person going to do something desperate there? And BCI has just kind of told law enforcement to show up, and that poor dealer is sitting there behind the counter. Oh, crud. So maybe that won't be so good. Jared, let's bring Jared on right now, Alex.
Let's do it.
Jared, what's your question about that, the range and Parley's? I know we've had some... it's kind of going back and forth. What's the last thing you heard about the gun range and Parley's? Thank you, Alex.
Well, the last thing I heard is what you guys reported last week.
Okay.
How nobody important was at the meeting, and it was overwhelmingly in favor of keeping the gun range. But I just haven't heard anything since.
Yeah, in fact, I don't think there was a nay. Not from the audience. There wasn't anyone in the audience that was in favor of getting rid of the gun range. So I had heard some. We're going to have Blake on, or Blaze. And in fact, if they're listening, maybe they could call in and give us the update, because I heard that there was a new wrinkle in that they're kind of backing off on the idea to save the range, so to speak. That's what I had heard. And so if the colonel is listening or something like that, maybe they can call in 888-570-8010. And as soon as we find out, we'll let you know, Jared. Appreciate the call.
Yeah.
All right. So what do we got? We got that much. We got 1 minute left. All right. So I can go through voluntary commitment of no, we don't want that one. I want liability of firearm custodian. Representative Starter, that bill, the committee held that bill. So what that means is the Law Enforcement Committee last week, was it last week? Week before? Anyway, it was heard.
It's all a blur.
Yeah, it's all a blur. And they heard the bill. They heard from the representative. They heard from the committee. They heard from the public. What this bill would do was say that if you loan a gun, and actually it was interesting because it was just loaning a gun, not selling a gun, privately, that you're now on the hook, liability-wise, for anything that person does.
So anything that person does that borrowed your gun, you're now on the hook for.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we oppose that bill.
Sure.
We do have, obviously you already have your federal, and the federal requirements for transfer of firearm work for borrowing, loaning, selling, whatever it is, trading. And this one is, apparently this one was just for loaning a gun, though. So it's kind of odd. So we oppose that. The committee did not vote it up or down, which was odd. I'm still trying to figure this part out. The committee did not, they just voted to hold the bill, which means the committee has it. It's on their list of bills that the committee can go to any time, but they didn't send it back to rules, so they didn't table it, and they didn't vote it up or down. So it was it's rather interesting. Anyways, when we come back, we've got lots more to talk about. Stay tuned.
For more information about contests on this station, go to knrs.com/rules. Traffic.
We could talk all day about HRA.
Let me see that that copy I gave you, because I thought maybe I gave you the wrong one.
It talks about illegal immigrants, but
All right, so that one isn't it then.
I mean, the big danger with HR 8 is that it essentially becomes a nationwide gun registry.
Well, and that's what we're gonna go into a little bit. Is that's essentially the only way it would work. And then, not just for the new guns, but for the old guns too.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we're going to talk about open carry near schools.
What was that?
What?
How long?
I couldn't hear it. Say again, Alex.
How long?
Oh, how long? Let's go 11 minutes.
We had 12 YouTube viewers. We're down to 8 now. Hello, YouTube.
What? Is somebody asking? Somebody saying hi on YouTube?
No, we had up to 12.
We did?
And now it's fallen down to 8. I guess. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, we got some people here.
217. There we are. 217.
Glenn Partial says I'm here. Steve Clark says
Glenn.
hello. And Vern Reed says there's a few of us out here. And Blue Light 11 says hi from St. George.
Cool, St. George. You guys still getting some snow down in St. George, are you? Any snow in St. George? All right, open carry near schools. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's a thing. It's neither good nor
Where you
bad.
can't even walk your dog down the neighborhood without running into one of those boundaries.
Yeah. Because it covers the grounds of the school, not just the footprint of the school, but the parking lot, the football
500
field,
feet
the
from
playground.
The boundary.
500 feet, yeah, from the ground. Well, they say the grounds in the bill. And we've already got some existing law, which is interference with school activities, I think. And it's 24/7.
On Talk Radio 1059 KNRS. Here's your host, Clark Kaposian.
Welcome back to Gun Radio Utah. Shout out to all those YouTubers out there.
Hi, YouTubers.
Hey, anyway, now let's talk about, you can call in 888-570-8010. 888-570-8010 and say, hi, Alex. I want to talk to Doran or Clark or whoever you want to talk to. If you want to talk to Casey or Bill, they aren't here today.
Too bad.
Yeah, too bad for them. Hey, a couple things. I want to get into the open carry near schools, HB 217.
Where's that?
Where is that actually? That is right now. Oh, it's not been. It hasn't been scheduled yet, but it is in the purview of the House Law Enforcement Committee.
In the purview.
So it's on the list.
It may be brought to committee, but it hasn't been scheduled.
No, it hasn't been scheduled in committee. And that's Representative Lee Perry from up north. He's the Highway Patrol.
Right.
Is he a lieutenant? I want to say lieutenant. He's up there. Anyways.
Right. And he's
the chair of the committee.
His bills in the past have kind of been hit and miss, right?
No, Lee's been pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's go back to that universal background check. First off, that's their term. You'll never hear the ATF or the FBI.
The bipartisan.
Yeah, well, that's their term.
That's their term.
You always got to be careful of who's calling these things. Now, when we say universal, that's not our term. That is the hand-wringing bedwetters that want to pass this, and they want to give the perception that if they pass a universal background check, then everyone who transfers a firearm universally will go through this background check. Oh, folks. Oh, you poor things. You poor things if you believe that.
But you can't really institute that without creating
let's talk
a
about
registry.
that. So first off, it's not universal because the same folks that are illegally transferring firearms, that are criminals anyways, are not going to run out and start transferring via a federal firearms licensed gun dealer. Next, how do you enforce this kind of legislation? How do you enforce this kind of a law unless you register the firearms?
Right. You have to have a database.
Now, it goes worse than that. So let's say that from, January 1st of 2020, they start, they do a universal background check, which, by the way, it's not going to get through it'll get through the House, but it won't get through the Senate.
Right.
And it wouldn't be signed. Well, let's hope it wouldn't be signed by President Trump. But anyway, so let's say that they instituted that. And you get pulled over or, the man is oppressing you and they're checking your guns. And you say, oh, well, it's not on the registry because I bought it before then.
Yeah, before 2020.
Yeah. So guess what? They'll find the weakness in their legislation and they'll say, oh, all those other guns that you have, every single one of them will now need to be registered.
Right.
In addition to that. So as if that's going to, you can look at a state like California or Massachusetts or Hawaii who has had registration for quite a long time. Hasn't done a thing.
No.
Hasn't solved any crimes. Hasn't done that at all. All right. Let's run over to Representative Briscoe's bill. Not a fan of HB 217. Essentially, what it does is it bans the open carry of a firearm near a school. Now, when I say near a school, I'm talking about the bill references the school grounds.
Okay.
So it's not just the footprint of the building, but it is the footprint of the property. So including the building, the parking lot, the
lawn,
playground,
yeah,
the football field, anything that is considered the grounds of the school. And then you draw a circle and you find out the farthest point 500 feet away. So almost 2 football fields away in every direction from the grounds. You are not allowed to openly carry a firearm or have a firearm displayed. Now, that includes the standard open carry, you're walking down the street with your holstered gun or whatever,
right?
Or the inadvertent or the accidental display of the firearm. Now, we already have laws. We have, I mean, to name a few, if we have misconduct laws, we have disorderly conduct laws that address certain things if you're doing with firearm. We also have a special bill called interference with school activities. If you're doing something so stupidly that you're actually, and this was the reason for the bill, was that it was going to interfere with school if somebody's walking by with a gun.
Right.
I get that. I'm not a huge fan of open carry, but I will always defend it. Always. Because what if we're talking about a person that does not have a concealed carry permit? Maybe they're visiting, maybe whatever it is, or the wind is blowing or something and it blows their jacket. I'm trying to figure out, from looking at these different maps of the schools, how you would walk your dog if you didn't have a concealed carry permit and you chose to carry a firearm. You would have such a circuitous route to get from point A to point B that, I mean, it would be laughable. Now, the bill also, as I'm looking at it, it does not say, thank you, Lundy, it does not say only during school hours.
Oh, really?
It's pretty much 24/7, 365.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it goes beyond the interference with school activities to, you just can't be anywhere near where a school activity might happen someday, sometime.
Yep. As used in this section, on or about school premises means in a public or private elementary or secondary school, on the grounds of any of those schools, or within 500 feet of the grounds of any of those schools.
So
that was the new one.
It has to be school property. Is that
Yeah.
right? You can't say, oh, they're going to a field trip at some McDonald's or something.
That's next, Dorn. Because I've heard that legislation before, and that would definitely be next. So, yeah, we're obviously opposed to this because we've got existing law. Hey, you know what? If somebody is, let's just say they're walking their dog, and they've got a gun on, and it's during school hours or whatever, there's nothing to stop someone from calling law enforcement.
That's a
and law
scary
enforcement
gun.
shows up and does, I don't know, a little attitude check or something and says, "Hi, how you doing?" And if the guy starts going off and foaming at the mouth, well, then there might be a cause for concern that law enforcement could take at that point. But, you know, we're worried about, in this case, the guns that we can see. If the person really does have a criminal mind, do you think there might illegally maybe conceal the firearm?
Right.
Yeah. And so they're not worried about the guns they can't see.
The criminal out there isn't going to think, well, I can't carry my gun down this street because I'll be close to a school.
Yeah. Exactly.
This is yet another example of gun laws that only affect the law-abiding citizens and don't affect the people who commit crimes.
888-570-8010. 888-570-8010.
Call us.
Yeah, you can call Lundy. All right. So what have we got? Did I tell you about? Did we already talk about Kentucky?
No. Tell us about Kentucky.
We talked about Kentucky. Where's my paper on Kentucky? Kentucky is going to be the 18th state to pass.
Well, we talked about this last week.
We did?
Yeah, we talked about
it's
how
moving.
it passed one house.
Yeah, and it went through the Senate.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. 18th state to pass.
This is common sense.
Common sense carry, what we call common sense carry, or carrying a firearm without a permit. So let's see how big of a change it would be in Utah if we did that. So first off, right now, you're allowed to have, obviously, you can carry your firearm concealed in your home, at your place of business, in your vehicle. You can have a firearm in your vehicle, fully loaded anywhere you want in that vehicle.
And you can do that without a permit.
You can do all these things without a permit. You can walk around with a firearm essentially fully loaded. Essentially. I mean, most states would call our unloaded versus loaded fully loaded. Just two manual actions. I mean, empty chamber, full magazine if you want.
Okay.
You can do that, but I like to call our kind of system of requiring a permit a coat tax.
Okay. It's a coat tax.
Because when you have your gun and you're wearing it on your hip or wherever, and you put a jacket on over that, you must pay a fee and pass and go through all the all the bureaucracy to put a jacket on.
Tax.
Yeah, or if you untuck your, but essentially it's a coat tax because you can do pretty much everything else.
Yeah.
Without that, it's just the moment you put a jacket on, bam, now you've got it. All right. And let's see. You know what? Let's bring on Curtis. Hi, Curtis. Right now. Curtis, are you there?
Hi.
Hi. All right.
I think it's real easy to inconvenience other people with the law, but if we really care about public safety, let's inconvenience those people that are trying to inconvenience me with gun laws.
How inconvenient that would be.
Yes. Well, I'd like to make it so that they have to register their kitchen knives. I guess everybody would have to register their kitchen knives. But let's not single out guns. If we want to make society safe, let's make it safe from everything.
Isn't that what they're trying to do in England?
They actually are pretty much there in England
pointing,
right now.
No pointing knives. All your knives have to be like
They actually have these big drop boxes, like they look like our standard U.S. mail, the strong, sturdy steel ones that you can put your knife into if you're so inclined to just get rid of that dangerous thing out of your house.
You can't sleep at night because there's a sharp, pointy knife in your kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, Curtis, you make an interesting point because that's our problem with a lot of these pieces of legislation, including safe storage. You know, when we started looking at, and I've said on this radio station before, when we start looking at the things from 0 to 12 that actually harm kids at Lundy, can we the things that actually harm kids: poisoning, drownings, falls, burns, chokings. That's just in the home.
Right.
That's the 99% of things that harm and injure and kill little kids. But the safe storage, then they bring up guns. Well, I'm going to tell you, not that I would wish this, and Utah Shooting Sports Council, the NRA, NSSF, we've all been working on education and a safe and appropriate storage for your firearms. It amounts to the same as the number of kids of that same age that die in floods, not drowning, but floods and or farm machinery accident for the same age. And what I'm getting at is this skewed priority that is placed on firearms that is completely inconsistent with the risk they pose. So there we go. All right. Curtis, thanks for the call. When we come back, we're going to talk to John and on Gun Radio Utah. Stay tuned.
The unemployment rate is at a 48-year low.
Chicago's murder capital because only the bad guys have guns. Okay, we'll talk about that.
What does John want to talk about?
John says Chicago is murder capital because only bad guys have guns. So, John, if you're listening, yeah, we're going to talk about that because what's the state that's right now? Indiana, right? You know, they talk about Indiana. What did I need to do? Oh, yeah.
Well, there was just this shooting in Aurora, and of course the state and
that was Aurora, Illinois, right?
Right, and now the state and national representatives are just chomping at the bit to use that as justification to move H.R. 8.
But the problem is that he was already prohibited.
Yeah.
It didn't stop him. He applied for, he got a FOID card, which is their big firearm owner identification card. FOID, firearm owner identification ID, yeah, FOID. He got that even with the domestic violence on his record. The only way they found out was when he applied for a concealed firearm permit.
Huh.
And then they didn't take his guns. So, we'll talk about Chicago.
Yeah,
I got some point because
Representative Foster, whose district includes the warehouse where that shooting, he acknowledges that H.R. 8 likely would not have had an impact. But
in fact, I can tell you right now, it didn't have an impact. I mean, you've got the...
And the state police said, yeah, we wrongly issued a gun license to this guy. Wow.
Yeah.
Indiana's like right there by Illinois, so yeah.
Or as most Utahns, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Illinois,
that's noise that makes you ill. I don't know. Illinois.
Or Louisiana. I say Louisiana.
Louisiana?
Yeah. Of course, I say Tijuana also instead of Tijuana. Tijuana.
Get a gun.
Yeah, torn. Yeah.
With Clark Aposhian on Talk Radio 105.9 KNRS. Listen, and you'll know.
Are we back on, Lundy? Hey, Lundy, welcome back to Gun Radio Utah. I'm your host, Clark Aposhian. Sitting across from me is Doran Barton.
That's me.
Fosmu.
Yeah.
Anyway, Doran handles our video our video feed on. You can find us on YouTube. Go to Gun Radio Utah on YouTube.
You have to search for it.
Search for it, or on Facebook, Gun Radio Utah. You can find us right there.
Page.
And we've got a 5-camera setup. Is that right?
Well, 2. We got 2 cameras because there's only 2 of us. There's really no sense in having
We got
more
your
than
multi-camera setup right now, and Dorn is operating those. All right, let's talk about. In fact, you know what? I want to bring John on real quick. John, I almost thought you were from Chicago because it said John, Chicago. Anyways, John, what's your? Thank you, Lundy.
You're talking to me, right?
I am talking to John. Yes.
Okay. Well, there's several things I have to say if you got a minute. Number one is I took a picture of an article in the Deseret News a few years ago that said Chicago, murder capital, and then it went into all the murders that took place every month, all year long, every year. And they have the strictest gun laws you can imagine. Only the bad guys have guns.
John, so let me break in there for a sec. You are correct. They have strict gun laws, and the bad guys have guns. But you know what they tell me when we get in committee and they start, and I'll bring something like that up. They say, but, you know, the criminals aren't getting their guns from local dealers because we have strict background checks and strict, you know, enforcement of that. They go next door to Indiana where they have very loose gun laws, and they get their guns there. And so you know what I say? I say, you poor thing. Bless your heart, but why doesn't Indiana have the same, with these lax gun laws, have the same murder rate as Chicago or the urban parts of that? It's because
I did a little research, and I found that the safest nation on the earth is Switzerland because they have open carry laws. You're required to carry a gun. And they are the safest nation on the earth. Israel comes in as number 2. They're required to go into the military, and after they're out of the military, being trained and all, they are required to carry guns.
You know, the bedwetters. The bedwetters like to say that the United States is pretty high up when it comes to the list of countries with gun crime. But Clark, remind me, if you take out some of those urban areas where they have gun-free zones.
I had my note. There's something like 4,000 counties in the United States. If you took out 15 of them, if you took out 15 out of 4,000, we would be the lowest, lower than all the European nations on violent crime, let alone gun crime.
And those counties are like New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C.
They're located in there. And technically speaking, even if you got
laws are the worst in the nation.
Yeah, even if you went even stricter than that and went by zip code, and there's something like 44,000 zip codes. If you took out, I can't remember how many there was, but it's such a tiny little number of zip codes because crime, gun crime or crime is not spread across this nation, like I've said before, like so much Nutella on a piece of bread. It is centered in very specific pockets. It's not. It doesn't even have much to do with gun laws, lax or that. It's a cultural thing. Now, but you can. It is easy to say that gun laws, certainly the more prohibitive gun laws certainly do not stop crime.
I agree. I talked to a cop here in South Jordan, though, asked him what he thought about open carry. He said that would be very helpful.
Well, yeah, John, we've got to go.
Was his own opinion,
Appreciate you listening to Gun Radio Utah. That would be, and you know what? And John makes a good point. Is law enforcement is honest. The rank and file cops are with us. Sometimes the chiefs in that aren't so great. All right, hey, thanks for listening to Gun Radio Utah today. You can also find you can listen to us on the podcast. Go to knrs.com/media. I think it is.
Yeah, and as Bill says, take someone out shooting and clean up.
Yeah, clean up after yourself. Goodness sakes.
You filthy animal.
Yeah.